Joining me now is Peter Beinart, editor-at-large with Jewish Currents, an MSNBC political analyst and a professor of journalism and political science at the Newmark School of Journalism here in New York City. Peter, thanks for joining us. I've touched on this a few times in the last few nights, but I don't think there's enough that you can say about this, because literally every response from an elected Republican has included the expression Soros-backed district attorney. You know, I said to somebody it's a dog whistle. They said it's a train whistle. It's a blowhorn. It's not a dog whistle. Hold on, I got to fix Peter's. I don't.
Sorry about that.
There we go. We got Peter's audio
back.
I had nothing to do with that. Peter's back.
Sorry, my fault. This has been going on for a long time. This effort to turn George Soros into the face of everything that's threatening to white Christians, not just in the United States, but also in Hungary, where Viktor Orban has focused his political campaigns against George Soros. Now, to be clear, there's nothing wrong with disagreeing with George Soros's politics. But when you turn George Soros into a kind of a puppet master who controls everybody on the left, even people like Alvin Bragg, who he's never met, what you do is you play into, as you were saying, a very old and racist and anti-Semitic trope, because the trope is this: that black people like Alvin Bragg aren't smart enough to actually make decisions for themselves. And therefore, Jews who are these evil, sinister geniuses must be the puppet masters behind them. That's what people said during the Civil Rights Movement when they said that Jewish communists were controlling Martin Luther King. It's what people said about the African National Congress when they said that Joe Slovo, the Jewish head of the Communist Party in South Africa, was the real power, not Nelson Mandela. It's both racist and anti-Semitic, and it's really disturbing that so many Republican politicians are embracing this.
Do you think there's some chance, though, given how common it was? Like, I'm having trouble believing that the majority of Republicans in Congress are racist anti-Semites. Is there some chance that people get into this thing and they hear it and they say it, that, oh, it's a Soros-backed district attorney, without realizing that they've stepped into both anti-Semitism and racism?
Absolutely. I don't think most of these Republicans think that they're anti-Semitic at all. I think they probably have Jewish friends and think that they're great friends of the Jews. But they have become so accustomed to this particular way of talking, they don't realize how dangerous it is. Let's remember that the guy who shot those people in Pittsburgh at the Tree of Life Synagogue was under the similar kind of delusion. He believed that George Soros and the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society was responsible for bringing these migrant caravans across the border, and so then he opened fire on a synagogue. This is dangerous stuff, and Republicans are not exonerated by the fact that they don't believe themselves to be anti-Semites. They need to actually learn enough about these stereotypes and these tropes so they don't repeat them.
I want to. There's another piece of this a little bit, and it is the. If you looked at all the criticisms of Bragg, it was Soros-backed, left-wing, socialist, in some cases communist. Our good friend Rudy Giuliani, who knows a thing or two about the Manhattan DA's office, had this to say about it. Let's listen.
The case is going to play out as an awful disgrace for the district attorney's office, a once great district attorney's office, run by a Soros-purchased prosecutor. The man isn't his own man. He's George Soros' man. And he's a man serving a communist. And he's a man that has the lives and blood of a lot of New Yorkers on his hands for the failure to follow his oath.
We don't commonly run a lot of Rudy Giuliani clips on this show because it's all a little bit nuts. But to the extent that there's just lots of ways to discredit Alvin Bragg and George Soros in the same sentence, again, it becomes dangerous because you heard the language here. He's a great district attorney's office run by a Soros-purchased prosecutor. Again, the implications in there continue to sound a little bit more than what they are.
Right. Firstly, it's deeply insulting to Alvin Bragg, who's a very experienced prosecutor who has actually, who was elected and is entirely, credible to make these decisions himself. Secondly, it just shows you how absurd, and this goes back to the protocols of the Elders of Zion, these anti-Semitic stereotypes are. On the one hand, you're calling Soros communist. On the other hand, you're calling him an uber capitalist who has all this money to buy people. In fact, Soros was one of the major figures supporting movements for freedom from the Soviet-dominated communist governments in Eastern Europe, like his native Hungary. So it's totally incoherent, and it's really disgraceful to people like Rudy Giuliani, who should know better. Again, if you want to disagree with the merits, you want to disagree with the idea that we should change our criminal justice policies, that's fine, but you can have that debate without this kind of anti-Semitic stereotype.
Yeah, you can actually talk about the stuff that you don't think you like about what George Soros supports in the movements, but a little bit of context here is always helpful. It's not as easy as an anti-Semitic trope. Peter, good to see you as always. Thank you. Peter Beinart is an editor-at-large at Jewish Currents and MSNBC political analyst.